Welcome to the Astrology Interview. I'm Sue Brain, and today I have with me Palden Jenkins. Palden, you have an enormous body of work that you've contributed to the world in incredibly colourful ways. I was just fascinated. I mean, you're a historian, you're a peacemaker, you've been into international relationships, you're very well known as an astrologer, and also this sort of sense of spiritual, political issues that you've been involved with. Now, you've also been diagnosed with Asperger's, which I find fascinating, and I'd love to talk to you about that. And also, you've had several experiences with UFOs and also near-death experience. And yeah, and also your experiences with mind altering medicine or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So I'm fascinated by all of that because I've just read your biography and I've just said to you, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure where to start with all of this. But I think what I'd like to do is start with Asperger's and
Mhm.
how that might have played out in your journey to become an astrologer.
Yes. Well, I felt like an outsider and a stranger, and I was always treated as a strange boy when I was young. Definitely not understood at all. And I was also miseducated, the education I received, although it was for its time quite good. I went to grammar school and things like that. But although, yeah, I was miseducated and I was bored at school.
Mm.
Um, but nevertheless, I was very good at examinations, and so I came out with flying colours and went to the London School of Economics. Where was I leading to? It's it took a while really for me to understand this, and it started when I first took my first LSD trip, and
Yeah,
I was 16. And astrologically, I had both Uranus and Pluto conjuncting right on top of my sun.
that's full on.
And so this was curtains opening
Yeah, yeah,
just at that age, 15, 16, when it does happen.
yeah.
And also I grew up in Liverpool, which at that time was on a cultural resurgence, cultural revival. Although we who were there didn't know that it wasn't happening elsewhere very much. We kind of thought this was everything everywhere. And so, but it took until perhaps my 40s really to understand things. But even then, I wasn't diagnosed. I haven't actually been diagnosed.
Oh, okay.
I don't actually see the point in letting neurotypical psychologists
Mm.
classify me and, in a way, give me permission to be who I am. It's you don't if you're a white person in Africa, you don't really need to be certified white in order to
No, you
function in the
just
streets
are.
of Africa,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And anyway, but anyway, I actually found out and accepted that I was an Aspie only when I was 65. I'm 75 now.
Mm.
And it was a shock. I was just listening to the radio, and there was a woman on who was talking about being an Aspie and how and her life in the business world. And I just went, hang on a minute, that's me. Just a minute, that's me. All this kind of thing. And suddenly it went boing. And I
Yeah.
had various clues before of people saying, you're a bit like someone with Asperger's, or something like that, including a German psychologist who I think knew what he was talking about. But, so there was that. But in another way also, uh, I've kind of taken a path. Back in the 1960s, there was this issue of, am I going to drop out and work outside the system, or am I going to work within the system? And in
Mm.
a way, many of the leading many of the radicals or the progressives in our generation, they took either path, and each path had its pros and cons. And I know some people of my generation who took the other route and they became teachers or good
Yeah,
managers.
yeah,
A lot of them did good things. Um, but on the other hand, the nose to the grindstone business and the setting aside of your core path charges its price, really,
mm,
from which only some people revive. On the other side of things, the dropout path has meant marginalization to the sides of society. I mean, I live right near Land's End in Cornwall. I'm right at the end, and that's my natural place.
yes.
Um,
Do you feel you're an exile? Do you have that
yes,
feeling? Yeah, the exile. Yeah.
yes.
Mm.
Well, I do have exile stuff in my chart. Saturn in the ninth, for example,
Yes. Yes.
and I remember actually, what's his name? Oh, sorry, name block. An astrologer who lives in Cape Cod.
Oh gosh, give me a bit more of a clue.
Sorry, I forget the names of even
Yeah.
my best
Anyway.
friends
Yeah.
sometimes. But anyway, he once looked at my chart and he said, "Oh, you're going to die abroad." And I thought, "Yeah, okay, well, we shall see." And I don't seem to have, although Cornwall is a separate country from Britain.
It is. And it's
So I'm
yeah, and
partially, yeah.
you're right down, as you say, right down at the end of it, falling
Mm.
off the edge of it. Yeah. So do you feel this Aspergery, even though you didn't quite understand what was happening to you, do you feel like that led you into astrology? Do you feel like that was part of
Yes,
the journey for you? In what
yes.
way?
Well, because I went on a path of relentless self-exploration.
Yeah.
I just had to find out, and I just kept digging and digging. And there was a lot of that going on in the 70s and early 80s, in particular, personal growth,
Yeah.
digging in the unconscious and, all that. And so it was a lot to do with that. But in another way, also, there's something about the beauty of astrology that it's circular and logical. And to me, I was quite overeducated and rather over intellectual in my teens and in my 20s, I was sort of going through this lost period where I was discovering my emotions and all sorts of things like that. And so it was a path of self discovery, really, and also of trying to understand something else. That was, I went to the London School of Economics, and one of the really difficult aspects of being a human comes up when you're in a failed revolution. It's one of the most disappointing,
Gosh.
disillusioning experiences you can have.
Mm.
And so,
Can you explain what that means?
well, we were trying to change the world and talking about peace and love,
Yeah.
give peace a chance. And I mean, we were a threat to the state in a manner of speaking, but only some of us were actually seeking to threaten the state. Many of us were trying to build a new world,
Mm.
you know. But it was taken as a threat to the state and the hierarchy, the oligarchy in Britain um, landed up squashing us. I
Mm.
personally was chased by a special unit called the Special Demonstration Squad, the existence of which was only revealed 2 years ago. And
Gosh.
and they had been formed specifically in order to foment trouble in demonstrations and to single out leaders, which so they could decapitate them and make an example of them. And that's one thing that happened for me, not specifically because I was a leader as such, but because I was quite articulate. And also, I'm not actually an extreme revolutionary. I'm what you might call a moderate revolutionary. I believe that everything needs to change, But
Yeah.
I don't believe in force, violence, or anything else. And I've always known deep down that you don't create transformation or revolution in a country just by uh, chopping off the head of the king or
Well, it's
or
never
or
worked
or
before, has
killing
it?
the mullahs. That's it's
Yes.
got to be changed all the way through.
Yes. It's got to
And
be completely
so
organic, hasn't it?
astrology
Mm,
helped me a lot in that regard because one of the subjects I learned at the London School of Economics was social psychology, but that was all about fitting people into the system. It wasn't about making a system which would fit people, right?
yeah. The
And
fitting
so I
in
was
of
really
all. Yeah.
disillusioned. And so finding astrology was brilliant. My first astrological guru, as you know, the book that really did it for me was Dane Rudyard's Astrology of Personality. But at that time, in the early 70s, there weren't many books to
Yeah.
read, actually. Isabel Hickey and can't remember the other ones, but there was quite a theosophical bent. But there was this new thing going on of taking astrology more in the psychotherapeutic direction. And that
Mm,
only emerged in the late 70s and early 80s, really,
mm.
with the new thinking around that. And I was a part of that, actually, in the early 80s. Um, I started a series of camps, sort of a movement of camps in a way. And the first camp we did was an astrology camp in 1984.
Do you know what? I think I went to it. I've got a
It was at the
very,
bottom of Glastonbury Tor.
it was a week-long camp.
Yeah,
Yes,
5 days or something like
I've
that.
got a feeling I went to it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
It might be.
It's the only one I ever went to, but I'm pretty sure it was, I can
Well, we
remember.
had them once a year after that,
Yeah,
but
well, it would
that
have been one of
really,
the very early ones.
yeah, that really brought forward the experiential side of astrology, both in a
Mm,
psychotherapeutic sense,
yeah,
but also in the sense of watching the stars and planets. I mean, everyone's making a big fuss about this array of planets that's visible
yeah.
now, but actually, we had one during, I think, the second astrology camp in 1986, and we had this amazing skyscape of
Yes.
about 5 planets arrayed across the sky, and the moon during the course of the week, the moon just sort of crossed all of them. It was amazing, you know. And so these things do happen, even though people make a fuss and they always want to say that it's the first time this has happened for 40,000 years. Well, listen,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but the thing is, the universe is infinite and amazing, and it doesn't repeat itself. And so, of course, things don't happen less than once every
yeah.
40,000 years, of course, because and so I wish people wouldn't make such a big fuss about these things, but they want to do it anyway. They've just discovered it.
Well, I think a lot of it is clickbait and
Mm.
YouTube and things like that, to be honest,
Mm.
from these huge headlines going, and ch the change, and it's never happened before in history of humanity. And I'm with you, Palden.
Well, there's also something very male here as well that applies not only in astrology, where you have these characters who want to be the one who discovers the new thing and gets it
Mm,
right, and that's
mm,
what has destroyed things like, say, the crop circle movement or or the ET movement as well, and that's been a big problem throughout the alternative society as well.
yes.
Pyramids and Stonehenge and everyone's sort of battling for a place in the firmament of people's attention, and it's crazy. It's just
That's human nature though, isn't it? I want to be the best. And maybe
well,
having
yes, but I think we've had a little too much of it.
yeah, but maybe, being an exile, the Aspergery, it kind of doesn't matter because I think it leads you into just this utter curiosity about everything, doesn't it? It leads you down so many different rabbit holes of what the hell is all of this about? And it isn't just astrology.
Yeah. No, and
Or,
I have done exile as well. I was a political refugee in Sweden in the mid to late
yeah.
1970s. But also, it's interesting how, in a funny sort of way, getting cancer has been a form of soul level voluntary exile. And I got cancer 6 years ago, and it's completely changed my life. Um, and it's in a way almost like a whole new chapter of life.
Can you
And here
say
I am, um, in the far beyond, in the far end of Cornwall. And yet, in a funny sort of way, I've always had quite a public life throughout my adult life. And I came to Cornwall because I'd had too much exposure. It was just too hot. I'd had enough. 35, 40 years of all that, getting fried, getting chased, getting jailed, all sorts of things. I'd had enough. Came
Mhm.
here. And the funny thing is that since I've had cancer, I've had a sort of a creative burst going on. And in some ways, I've never been so popular. And here I am on a pretty isolated organic farm at the far end of Cornwall, middle of nowhere. And it's fascinating that.
So what's it done for you personally being diagnosed with cancer? Because when we initially had an email exchange, you talked about hovering between life and
Yeah,
death,
yeah.
and you look pretty robust to me right now, but you may not feel it. But so I'm curious about that.
Well, it's partially because I've psyched myself up for this interview, Sagittarius rising, stick me on stage and I
And
always
you'll
sail through it.
perform.
And everyone says, "Palden, you look so well." Um, but now I've forgotten your question.
I'm just
Um,
talking about how's it changed you, or
all right.
what it's done for you
Well, it's
personally.
made life twice or three times as difficult. Um, I'm now partially disabled. I have myeloma, which is a blood cancer, but it attacks your bones, and your bones start giving way. And that's what happened to me. The four bottom vertebrae of my back collapsed, and I'm an inch and a half shorter than I used to be. But I also came very close to death, and it really felt like it. And they
What
did. Sorry,
did that feel like for you when you were that close to death? What happened
I
for
was
you?
on my back, couldn't do anything about anything. It just felt quite final, as if
Was it frightening for you, or did you go into acceptance?
frightening. No, well, of course, I was up against my fears, but no, I wasn't frightened. I mean, I've had a pretty dodgy life, and I've had one serious near-death experience when I was 24, and two others which were close but didn't really happen. And also in my work in war zones, I've been close to death
Mm,
4 or 5 times.
mm,
Uh, and so, and also there's another side. It's partially tied up with wrong planet syndrome, and it's partially tied up with being a very saturnine person. And that is, there's a part of me that's actually quite relieved to be getting to the end now.
mm.
And passing on will be, in some ways, a matter of relief.
Yes. Yes, I think when you have Asperger's or the wrong planet syndrome, I'm sure a lot of people listening to this will identify with that. Doesn't mean to say you've got Asperger's, obviously, but you may have this feeling like I'm on the wrong planet. I don't get humanity. So yes, I can understand
Well, the
that
thing
feeling
was,
of
I've
relief.
done a lot of past life regression, actually,
Yeah.
as part of my path. And one of the things has been to explore when, why, and how I first came to Earth. And the thing was, I was reluctant from the beginning. It's just
Mm.
that they asked me, uh, "We've got one extra job for you to do before you finally retire." It was
Who,
that kind of thing.
who's they?
Oh, the people I work with and for, I don't want to go into that right now,
And
but
we're talking in
my
other
angels,
angels or
yeah,
you extraterrestrials or however it
yeah,
works for you. Yeah.
beings, yes,
Yeah, beings, yeah.
yeah. And so I came in with this attitude of, well, there's a job to do and I better get down and do it. But you don't notice the joy in that, really. It's
No.
uh, and so I did spend at least my first 35 years wishing to leave Earth. But then I went through a transformative experience where I re-experienced my angels, so to speak, my
Yes.
source personally, and why I had chosen to come here, which was that there was a job to do.
And is this job, Palden, the kind of thing that Dolores Cannon talks about, the volunteers who've come for this particular time to contribute to
Yeah,
energetically or consciously to help this great transition to happen?
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. And it's been to do with my, you could say, sole profession, which is the word I've given it is a planet fixer. It's
I like that, a planet fixer.
working with the morphogenetic fields of planets in order to permit certain evolutionary developments to happen and to discourage certain other evolutionary developments to happen. But it's working on the subtle levels because aside from being an astrologer, which is about working with subtle energy, I've been very involved in geomancy, stone circles, ancient sites,
Yeah,
and also with crop circle
yeah.
research, um, and also with sort of psychic work. And I've always been very conscious of uh, energy fields,
Mm.
and that's my strength in a sense. And so, yes. So anyway, I came into Earth with a slight reluctance, but knowing that there was a job to do. And one of the interesting things, which has since I got cancer 6 years ago, I've had to go through a kind of a self-forgiveness process because I can't say that I have achieved what I came here to do. For example, I've been focused on war and peace, and quite frankly, the situation hasn't improved since the days of Vietnam 60 years ago. And
No.
so I can't say that there's a success, but on the other hand, the way I've worked in certain conflict zones, um, I'm happy with what I've done there, even though the impacts of it have been small.
And is that enough for you, or do you feel like you'll go to your deathbed thinking, regretting that maybe I didn't do enough? But
No, I don't think so. That's the
you'll feel,
self-forgiveness
yeah,
bit.
yeah, you'll go there
It's to do
going,
with
I did the best I could.
it's yeah, and it's to do with being here under ridiculous circumstances where you're
Yes,
swimming against the tide and the world, and there are forces opposing change,
yes,
um, which at the moment, today, are having a field day.
they are.
And
Yeah,
so,
they are.
so we're in difficult times. But on the other hand, I've got the joy of knowing that a lot of the work I've done has a long-term significance
Yes.
beyond the stretch of my life.
We're talking legacy here, aren't we?
In a sense, yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yes. On
Whatever
a
that means to you. Now,
yes.
Paladin, I know that you've had two experiences with what is known as UFOs, and I'm just wondered if you could talk a little bit about that and the impact that's had on your life as well, particularly now, considering what we're facing, all the whole of humanity is facing right now.
Well, I've actually had one proper UFO experience and a few minor ones, sort of. But also, I've been involved with this channeling project with the
Yeah.
Council of Nine, who aren't exactly ETs, but it's all the same stuff. It's universe incorporated going on, and
Yeah.
and then being involved in crop circle research as well. Although I wouldn't put the crop circles down exactly to ETs, that there is something non-earthly about them. And so I've been very privileged in that regard. Although I
Mm.
must say, it is about saying yes.
What do you mean?
You've got to give permission for these things to happen. Um,
What
so
do you
I,
mean
I
personally
had this
or?
had this close encounter,
Hmm.
and I was on a walk with a friend on a dark November night in Wales, and about half a mile away there was this big lenticular UFO. Now I was 22 at the time; she was a similar age, and hadn't really thought about it before. But it was definitely, are you seeing what I'm seeing? You know, and we were comparing notes and pinching each other and turning round and turning back and this kind of thing. And it was all going on. And that was quite a major thing. It turned a key deep down inside
Ooh.
for the long term. And so a process started there.
Mm.
And although the majority of people in the world, I mean, even amongst alternative types, people have skepsis about extraterrestrial issues. And so I've had to remain quiet about it. And that's one of the difficulties of being a contactee, is that no one, even your own partner, will believe you.
Yeah.
Yes, Dad, you know,
Yes.
we
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
all this
Yeah.
kind of stuff, and all the
Yeah.
skeptics and all the disinformation and all the rest of it. And so, but anyway, so I've had that plus being involved with the nine, and that was remarkable. During the time when I was working on the book, which was about a year and 8 months, I was in another world. I was in their world.
I'm
And my
sure.
house was surrounded by a force field which just didn't let people in.
Really?
And the phone stopped ringing.
Wow.
And when I came out of it, people were saying, "Have you been away, Palden?"
So they really wanted you to do this.
Yeah.
So do you want to explain for anyone that doesn't know about the Council of Nine and the book, what you were dealing with or what was being given to you?
Well, this group of people had been on this channeling project for about 20 years, and they had thousands of pages of transcripts of their sessions, and they needed someone to bang together a 400-page book. And I was a book editor working in that field in the 80s and 90s. And so that's what happened. I mean, there's more to it than that.
Mm.
I mean, in a certain way, when it started, I realized, gosh, I've spent all my life preparing for this unconsciously, you
And
know.
do you want to explain a little bit more about the content and what it gives us?
It, it's it's a bit biblical. It's a bit big, uh, and it's very fertile thinking stuff. It sets off a lot of processes, uh, and a lot of the information in it is very valuable.
Mm.
And the vibe as well, the contact, the sense of connection is very valuable too. Um, and one of the purposes of the book was to help people reconnect. We were working on the basis that the people who, on some level of their soul, knew the nine would find the book and it would help them
Yeah.
reconnect. And so, and what was it like? It covered all sorts of things about the situation on planet Earth, the way it evolved throughout history, the purpose of planet Earth,
Yeah.
what will happen if we really get things wrong here, and also how we can, in a way, save ourselves. They don't exactly give answers. They're
Yes.
telling us to use our full intelligence because we have all the tools available.
Mm.
That's the more of the thing, and they explain a lot about free will and the uniqueness of this planet being a planet where
Yeah.
all of the beings on the planet have individualized free will, and
Mm.
this is quite unique. Planet
Yes.
Earth is a unique planet. There isn't another like it, and
Mm.
that's because it's a bit like a greenhouse or a hothouse for hybridizing a new species of soul-bearing humanoid type beings uh, in a dense physical planetary environment. And also, it's as a training school, sort of an outward bound special forces type training school where they really put you through the grinder. And the idea is that we come out the other side and graduate, and that the people who have graduated from planet Earth become an amazing new type of soul that exists in the universe which didn't exist before. And then people might think, well, what do you mean? And all I can say is that in my own rather colorful life, some of the most remarkable humans I have met have been terrorists, criminals, even murderers. You don't have to be a bad person to do this, but they've also been artists. They're people who have gone through it.
Mm.
They've gone through hell in some
Yeah.
way, the grinder. And that makes them special. That's one of the reasons why I've loved working with Palestinians, because they have really gone through the grinder for many generations. It's built into their DNA now.
Mm.
They are born survivors. They're people who have faced the difficult truth, which is that even when you're a loser, it's about losing well. The Palestinians, they lose every battle, but basically they don't allow the other side to win either. And so that's a battle for truth.
Are we talking about here the no I've been to Israel and haven't certainly haven't done what you've done out there, but I witness a lot of stuff going on. And I'm wondering I came away thinking they have a noble spirit, that sort
Yes,
of nobility,
yes,
which a lot of people that, well, I mean, it's yes, absolutely. And you have to, as you say, go through the grinder to sort of, I think Nelson Mandela had a noble spirit.
yes.
You know,
But
you,
this is also not just, say, Israelis and Palestinians
yeah,
or Americans and Iranians. It's not just about that. This is about people against the mega machine,
yes, yes.
um, and and all the variations we have of that
Paladin, I want
thing
to
that's going on around the
yeah,
world.
I want to run something past you just to see whether you resonate with this. For me, the grinder is having to go through the grinder is stripping away anything that removes me from my connection with the divine. The fact that I don't know if this is, yeah, the spark of something greater than me. And when I've gone through what I've also gone through, and obviously you have too, and many people do, and we're definitely doing that at the moment. There feels like I sort of understand that there is something far greater than me just at play, but I hate using this word, in service to it, or I'm here to, what's another word for service? I don't know, but I'm here to work with it, or to, I don't know, yes, to work with it. That's it.
Yes,
Where are you with that?
indeed. Well, one of the things that came up while you were talking was that one of the benefits that I've had from getting cancer, and I've noticed it in some other people too, although I think it depends on how much their life was actually threatened really by it.
Hmm.
But one of the benefits is that my defenses have been eroded away quite a bit. And I can now go into states of being that I would really have to work hard to get into earlier in life. And this has been, and also since getting cancer, I've been close to death 3 times. Um, and that's been very good exercise, actually, very good preparation.
Mm.
I feel that's an amazing gift. But I am psychologically more vulnerable now than I used to be.
Can you just explain what that means to
I
you? What does
can't,
that mean?
the things I can't manage anymore, where
Yeah.
I'm dependent on others. I get affected by the presence of certain kinds of people. Uh,
Mm.
I get all sorts of difficulties, really. It's, when you've got death standing in front of you, uh, and you could just sort of choke one day and just die, or something like that, then it just takes away your normal pretenses. Most people go about around
Yeah.
life without really thinking about their death,
Mm.
and still wanting to go on and on and on. And a lot of people of my generation are going through a series of shocks as they're realizing it's not like that.
Not
When you
like
grow
that.
old, it really does.
Yeah.
You do start getting cut down, and your
Yes.
possibilities become reduced, and you just can't make it anymore. And all the
Do,
rest of it.
Palden, do you feel
So,
like you're living with kind of one foot in another a world, or do you feel very present, or you feel like you're living in these two worlds
well,
of being here and not being here?
this is where we have an illusion, which is we believe that death is the time when your heart stops pumping, clinical death, and that's
Mm,
not true.
mm,
Um, I think everyone's about 10%, if not 20% dead already. That is, that there's a part of their psyche in the other world. They might not be
yes,
conscious of it,
yes.
but that nevertheless that's the case. But as you grow older, or also if you have certain kinds of illnesses, or if you're in a danger zone, such as a war zone, then you can come quite close to death. Today, I would say I'm in the around 80 to 85%.
On the in the other world.
Um, in a way, yes. In a way, yeah.
Yeah. And what does that give you? That feeling like I'm moving into that world. What does that give you?
Very, very different insight into life,
Mm,
and my energy will be very uh, is restricted. My active day when I'm capable of doing things is 4 hours most days and 6 hours on a good day.
right.
And so one of the problems I have is all these zealous, lovely younger people who want me to do this, that, and the other. And it's great, but I can't go at that pace. I can't
No.
do it.
But I would imagine you don't want to, do you? Or would
No,
you? No,
I
that's
don't
it,
want to
isn't
do
it?
things which are a waste of time in particular.
Yeah. But I think when we're moving more into the other world, then there is this softening, let's say, or letting go of the physicality of being here. We don't want to do that so much.
Well,
I think Neptune kind of steps in and starts
yes,
dissolving the ego, and I
yes.
have to be here, and this is I'm so important, and this beautiful transition starts to happen. I don't know whether you feel like that or.
Well, certainly in regards to shoulds and oughts and got tos, yes.
Mm,
Although I have been quite creative and I am a workaholic type, I churn out a lot of stuff, even
yeah,
now.
yeah.
And but on the other hand, my output is low. There are some rather interesting things that happened. One other thing that happened when I first had cancer, because I was given a year to live, and it really felt like it was going to be like that, was I kind of did a summation of my life. I did a Excuse me.
Mm,
I did an inventory of my life, and I closed down various things, including the Astrologer. There, it was a relief to let go of the pastoral side of being an astrologer, the duty, the pastoral duty of being an
gosh, yeah.
astrologer. That was a relief to let go of after 40-ish years.
Mm,
But there were other things where I realized I haven't yet finished on this. And so I have been in quite a creative phase, which I think has been stimulated by the brain changes. They call it chemo brain. Brain changes that these strong chemicals you take have. And what it's done is It's made it my executive brain more dysfunctional, and it's
Mm.
made my creative brain much more functional and flowing. And I've been a writer ever since I was 14, and some of the best of my stuff has been in the last 6 years.
And you would say that's chemo brain.
Yeah,
See, that's so the chemotherapy then must cool down the logic, and if you want to call it left brain, right brain,
yeah.
whatever you want to call it, and it's working with that creative right brain.
Well, there's another thing too,
Interesting, isn't it?
which is, yeah, there's another thing too.
Gosh.
Um, Around the age of 40, there were three interesting people who all said, you'll be at your peak in late life. And when I got cancer, within a day or two, I suddenly realized, and I was feeling like I was in my 90s, incapable. And I feel it's actually advanced my age. I got the cancer at the age of 70, and but I felt it zooted me into my 80s. And I feel that I'm more in my 80s now.
Mm.
And although I kind of look quite uh, healthy and bright, I'd say actually that's what comes from being what I call spirit propped. The thing is that if you're going to work with something like cancer properly, you've got to really give yourself to spirit. You've really got to hand yourself over. And I made a decision that I was not going to die for medical reasons. I'm going to die because it's time for me to go.
Yes.
Now, that's easy to make that in your brain, but you've got to make it in your blood and your heart.
And how have you done that, Palden? How have you done that after what?
Despair
Despair. That's the big one, isn't it?
and being taken to the edge.
Mm.
And so I had a bad period 4 years ago when Neptune was opposing my Saturn, and my partner left me, and I was ill for months, and it was really quite a dark time. And I really thought, okay, well, this might be it. This might be the one. And I handed myself over and went through the process. And then one day things were brightening up. And again, this voice comes up in my head saying, ah, there's something more we'd like you to do. And of course, my response to that was a mixture of joy and groan.
Oh no, not more. Oh yeah, cool. Oh.
But it is something also, it's important for me
Yeah.
because it's to do with exploring the different archetypes within me. You could say connecting with other lives. And when I got cancer, I moved from one archetype to another. I was the before that, from the age of 50 to the age of 70, I was the reincarnated Austrian aristocratic philanthropist. And then afterwards, I've been the early Bronze Age Hierophant, or something like that. Something like that.
Yeah. It's
And
very
it's an
different.
important part of myself, and it goes back to what uh, these three people were saying about being at my peak in late life, and also how, in a funny sort of way, I've been aged more.
Mm. Sheldon, I want to just go back a little bit, reel you back a bit. You said after your partner left you and you were diagnosed with blood cancer that you did this kind of surrender, but you went through the process. What did that mean for you to go through that process?
My partner left me 2 years after I got cancer. She
Oh,
did look
okay.
after me for the
Yeah.
first 2 years. Um, what does that mean? It
Mm.
means going down and in, down into the darkness,
Are you talking about
owning
despair
owning
here?
up, owning up,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
my sins, my faults, the ways I've sabotaged myself and other people, uh,
So you're
my
talking about a life.
guilt.
You're talking about a life review, aren't you?
Talking about,
A life review.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
but not just a life review. It's fight for your life. You know, really,
Yeah.
it's standing in front of Yamantaka, one of the wrathful deities, or in front of Saint Peter with his scales. Right, this is it. We're
Mm,
going to weigh. And actually, I was coming out with this thing that, despite my faults, I felt happy on the whole about the way my life has gone,
mm,
and I feel that on balance, though I've screwed up and I've hurt people, I think on balance, on the other side of things, it still comes out positive.
mm.
And that's not a conclusion that I would naturally come to. I'm a very self-critical Virgo. Saturn in Virgo, moon
Yeah.
square Saturn, my mother always going on at me, but
Yeah. Or
pull
never been
yourself
good enough,
together,
isn't
lad,
it? Yeah.
What?
It's never been good enough. Saturn in
Yeah,
Virgo. Never,
yeah,
never, never been good enough.
yeah.
Gosh, that's so interesting. I mean, I'm just curious because going through I do believe that to really connect truly with who you are and ripping off the labels, that you have to walk the fire. You have to just go, I can't do this anymore. And it's almost like that feeling of, you're on the floor, banging the floor, going, God, help me, where have you gone? You've abandoned me. It's got that feel to it. Is that what happened for you?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's also about sorting out the things you can do about life to round things out, perhaps
Mm.
to ask for a person's forgiveness or understanding or
Yeah.
whatever, and the things you can't do because things have moved on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
you just can't go back to that place, or that person's dead already,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
whatever. And there's a self-forgiveness thing there, because guilt is a very human thing. It's a clamp on our souls, and it stops us from doing so much. It stops us from carrying out our life purposes because we fear what might happen if things go wrong,
Mm. Mm.
and all the rest of it. And we fear the sanctions that society can lay upon us if we
Mm.
step out of line, those kinds of things.
Mm.
Um, so,
Or I can't be me, isn't it? Guilt and shame is like I'm so damaged or I'm so wrong or whatever it is. I cannot step out from that under that shadow. It's so
yeah,
overwhelming, and I think you're right that the great journey, isn't it? Part of the great journey is to come up from underneath that shadow and just go. You who you are. You're doing the best you can.
yeah.
And we
Well,
cannot
not only that, but one of the
stop.
things that the nine really impressed upon me was they were saying, don't you worry, because you lot on Earth today, you light bringers, are actually achieving more than you are aware of. And this is like one candle in darkness,
Yeah.
you know. And 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 I have become aware that when you're working with the seeds of fundamental change, it takes a while for seeds to germinate, truly. And so there are things like, for example, I've been involved with Israel and Palestine, and they have really fucked up their chances in the last round. This has really delayed reconciliation by a generation at least.
Oh, at least. Yeah.
But on the other hand, it's still going to happen. It's just going to take longer,
Yeah.
you know. And this is the situation with peace in the world and with the world situation as a whole, I believe. I am an optimist, Saggy rising, Jupiter in Pisces, all this kind of stuff. But it also has a battle with the pessimist, which is Saturn in Virgo.
Yeah.
So I've really had to work on that one.
Yeah, good
And
Lord. But I think it's good though to have this balance, because I do think there's a lot of spiritual bypassing happening. You
Yeah,
know, we're going through the shit and we're not suddenly all going to ascend into whatever we're meant to be ascending into. We've got to go through it and take responsibility for our part in how we have created this. This
yeah,
is my take. I don't know where you are with that.
yes, that's true.
Mm.
And I had a really big lesson off one of the Palestinians I worked with 15 years ago or so. And I was in Bethlehem. And I felt as if I wasn't achieving very much there. I felt as if I wasn't helping very much. And I said to her, I think I might go home for a few months because I don't feel I'm making a contribution here. And I'll come back in a few months' time. And she just looked straight at me and she said, Palden, when you are here, we feel safe. And it really kind of, I cried.
Yeah, I bet you
I
did.
cried.
Yeah.
And so I stayed, And that was an amazing, deep teaching, actually, that I didn't have to do anything. And the funny thing was that after that time, in
Yeah.
terms of actual outcomes, humanitarian outcomes, actually my track record improved immensely because I just wasn't trying anymore. It's just I found myself walking into situations where I held an ace card, lay it on the table,
Yeah.
problem solved. Next, it was
Yeah.
funny. It was magic, magic. And
And
so,
doesn't this demonstrate, though, that you have to learn to jump over your own shadow of self-doubt or
yeah,
self-hatred or loathing or, low self-worth, or this is ridiculous. And you need that occasionally, that somebody to say, do you know, I feel safe. I mean, whoa, I feel safe with you in that terrible situation. I mean, what greater gift can you give somebody,
yeah, yeah,
actually?
yeah.
But we
Well,
do.
I've got this rather strange thing though, where I go through all the heebie-jeebies when I'm on my own, but when I'm with others and out in public, I don't have any problem at all. And
Yeah.
I've always been good at taking people over the top. Uh, you
What do you
know,
mean by that?
helping them get over
Yeah, get over
get
themselves.
over the big threshold
Yeah,
that lies in front of them,
yeah.
and have the bravery to do so, which
Mm,
lands up not being bravery actually.
mm,
It's bravery to start it perhaps, but once you get over there, it's sort of wonderful. And I learned that a lot. It's been a big thing that for me. And people say, oh, Palden, you're so brave. Well, I don't regard myself as particularly brave, actually. It's just that the more you swim out into deep water, the more you get used to deep water.
yeah, yeah. And also, Palden, this is what you came for.
Yes,
Going back to the original conversation, this is what
yes.
you're here for. And you're not
Yeah.
here to have an easy time and put your feet up. You're here to do the work.
Mm, mm.
Palden, what would you like to say as a closing to anyone out there listening to this about their journey, and maybe something about what the nine might would like to say?
Yeah. Well, since the theme was theoretically about dying and stuff,
Theoretically.
uh, uh, I'd say this, and this is one thing the nine are particularly hot on, and that's this, that they regard planet Earth as having a really big problem at the moment because people come here to experience the very special experiences you can have on Earth, both in the sense of pain and pleasure, although perhaps we seek for the pleasure a lot, but we also get pain.
Mm,
Um, and the thing is that we forget the reason why we came. And this leads to a situation where we where the majority of people is failing to graduate from the course. And this is leading to an immense population spike. The nine would say it's ridiculous having 8 billion people on a planet. This is not done.
mm.
And someone once asked them what would be the optimum population of planet Earth, and they said, well, 200 million,
Right.
which is what it was actually
Yeah.
around perhaps late Bronze Age or something like that.
Yeah.
And but they said basically that you could handle 2 billion quite comfortably if you were doing things right, and you can get through with 8 point something billion if you do things right, you know. So so there's this problem, and there's an extra dimension to this because it causes people, since they lose a sense of direction in their lives, it causes them to reincarnate on Earth again, carrying their
Yeah.
pain
Yeah.
and guilt and their stuff with them.
Unprocessed.
Yeah. And so that's what lies behind the population growth. But there's an extra thing here, and that is we are depriving the rest of the universe of a supply of highly educated soul beings who've been through the mill on planet Earth and who have become something else from what they originally were. And they are needed around the universe because we on Earth, when we graduate from planet Earth, we come out like super troopers because it's so difficult here.
Mm.
It's not just difficult, it's immersive, it's heartrending.
Mm.
It can rip you apart. It is not comfortable. But on the other hand, some of the most amazing joys can be had, such as in physical sex, such as through landscapes, such as through our literature and arts. Give an example. Most beings across the universe don't need words. They communicate
Yeah.
directly mind to mind, heart to
Telepathically.
heart, which means they
Mm.
don't use words. And so they don't have literature in the way that we do.
Mm.
Literature is a playing with words, but it actually fascinates. It's fascinating stuff. And it
Mm.
leads to insights which you can't get otherwise. All the world is a stage and we are all actors
Yeah, yeah.
upon it.
Oh gosh, yeah. I'm just thinking as a super trooper, which is a lovely idea, isn't it? You've graduated, you become a super trooper. Can you then choose to come back and incarnate to
Yes,
help again, like a bodhisattva?
yes,
Yeah, that's what happens. And so the choice is either you go further on or you become a super trooper in the universe, or you go, actually, I'm going to go back because this is crap and I want to
yes,
be
but
of
not with
help.
that tone of voice.
No.
Uh, and yes, and also we start deciding this in this life.
Yeah,
What I would put before many of your listeners is give this some attention.
yeah.
Do you want this to be the last life you have on Earth? And if so, what are you going to do to round that out? Because you don't get baked beans on Arcturus.
No, you don't.
And so you've got to be happy that you finished with this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I
Or,
think I think this is where astrology can help,
yeah,
especially solar astrology,
yeah,
that you can really look at the chart and help people to understand why they're here
yeah,
and that reconnection to memory of, oh, that's why I've come. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Or there's the choice to come back. And I moved that way, although in the end it pens discussions with the folks upstairs, really.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah.
but I'm willing to come back. Why? Because during this life, going against, and my chronologically previous life, going against the grain of society has been painful. That's one of the deepest areas of pain that I have is what I
Mm,
call political pain.
mm, mm.
And I'm still unresolved on that. I'm having to set it aside and forgive a lot and let it be, but I'm unresolved on that.
Mm,
It's what I was saying at the beginning. Being in a failed revolution is one of the worst things to
mm.
happen in a way, especially when you know you're right.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm not saying that in a political kind of way, that it's difficult, but
No, I get where you're coming from on that one.
yeah, fundamentally, I believe it is right to do all we can to save our world. And
Yes,
I don't believe that is a political statement. That's the statement of a father.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Palden, thank you so much. This
Well,
has
my
been
pleasure.
such a fascinating conversation. And yeah, it's lovely to make contact with you, having, as I said, known you, your work, and especially the Council of Nine for all these years. So I wish you so well on your journey, wherever it takes you,
Thank
Palden.
you. Yeah, yeah. Well, indeed, indeed. Yes,
And
we shall
for all
see.
you out there, I'll pop Palden's information below this video, and
Yes.
yeah, drop him a line.
It's easy. It's easy to find my website, and I've got a lot of interesting stuff on there.
You certainly have. All right, bye all,
Thank
and
you. Bye-bye.
God bless you on your journeys.
Bye-bye.
Take care for now. Bye.